2 weeks ago, I sent you an email letting you know how city staff was about to damage the value of every property on Lake Worth. I also sent you a survey so that your voice could be heard by our city officials. Today, I want to show you the results of that survey and what changes city staff has made in response. I'll let you know right now, it's absolutely ridiculous. And at the end, I will show you what you need to do to defend your home. The Dock Ordinance survey was sent by email and regular mail to all 494 property owners on the lake. Over 170 property owners responded. Folks, that is huge. Here is a map that was created by city staff after I gave them the results of the survey and a list of the people who had responded. The red spots are the properties of the respondents. As you can see, a vast number of people from every neighborhood on the lake participated. And what's even more astounding is the high level of consensus. Lakefront citizens spoke with a singular and clear voice. In this video, let's take a quick look at the most important provisions. The first question is about proposed fines. The question is, do you oppose $2,000 per day fines for code infractions? 99% of property owners said, I am against $2,000 per day fines. So what has city staff changed? Nothing. That's right. Nothing about that has changed. The next set of questions have to do with size restrictions. The first question is, do you believe that city staff's recommendation for dock size are too restrictive and would damage lakefront property values? 98% of property owners said, yes, I believe that city staff's recommendations for dock size are too restrictive and would damage property values around the lake. 98%. Now folks, that's what you call consensus. Almost unanimously, property owners rejected city staff's recommendations. The next question is, do you believe that the community's recommendations for dock sizes is appropriate for Lake Worth and would benefit property values? 98% said, yes, I support the size recommendations recommended by the community, that is the Dock Steering Committee. If you remember from the last video, the Dock Steering Committee was a staff-led community collaboration in which real estate professionals and community members were led by city staff to create recommendations for the new ordinance. At the end of 6 months, recommendations were drafted by staff that met the needs of the community. For reasons still unknown, staff later threw out the community's work. These two questions on the survey show an amazingly clear consensus. 98% of the citizens uniformly reject the size restrictions by staff, and 98% uniformly accept the work of the community collaboration. So, how has city staff responded to your clear and unfettered voice? Oh, they made changes, but instead of listening to the community, they made the size restrictions even worse. That's right. City staff has abandoned their previous proposals and now propose even more restrictive size limitations. Here's the latest proposal. The new size limitation is based on the length of the frontage of your property. Notice that properties that have up to 80 feet of frontage only get an 800 square foot dock. As I explained in my last video, this is tiny. Properties with over 80 feet of frontage can be 10 square feet per foot of frontage. For example, if you have 100 feet of frontage, you can build a 1,000 square foot dock. The maximum size is 1,600 square feet, and that's if you have 160 feet of frontage. There are only a handful of properties on this lake that have that kind of frontage. So what does this mean? This means that the majority of existing docks on Lake Worth would be illegal and would be classified as non-conforming. That means that most owners who have a dock would not be able to replace it, and everyone who doesn't have a dock can only build a tiny one. Folks, this is what's wrong with America right here. I don't know about you, but I'm sick of people making up rules just because they can, and I'm sick of paying some of the highest property taxes in Texas and getting less help, less response, and less respect from our city government than anyone else. Community leaders and real estate professionals have produced example after example after example of why this proposal is bad for everyone. It's bad for the citizens, it's bad for the lake, and it's bad for Fort Worth. In the proposal, city staff says that these provisions will benefit, quote, the effects on water quality, unquote. Yet staff has not produced one shred of evidence that anything about this helps water quality or anyone else. I'll say it again. Staff has not produced one shred of evidence that this proposal helps the water quality or anyone else. The community around the lake has been reasonable, cooperative, and respectful to staff for over 2 years. Good, smart leaders of the community have spent hundreds of hours with open hands and open heart begging staff to work with the community. Community leaders have bent over backwards to include the entire community and to open communication between all the stakeholders. Yet, city staff not only has rejected the community's collaboration, they have unilaterally generated 6 revisions to this ordinance, each worse than the last. Let's look at this objectively. 2 years ago, the community had some issues with the very first revision, so city staff said, okay, and then they made it worse. When the community had problems with the second revision, city staff said, okay, and then they made it worse. And when the community had problems with the third revision, city staff again said, okay, and then they made it worse. Over and over again until 2 years later, here we are with this 6th revision that absolutely shocks the conscience. It's hard to look at these actions and conclude that the community has been treated fairly. So what are we going to do about this? We have 2 elected officials who have authority over this. The first elected official is our councilman, Carter Burdett. This proposal only goes forward with his authorization. If this proposal passes, it will be with his full knowledge, full consent, and full support. Our second elected official is Mayor Mike Moncrief. I have a great deal of respect for Mayor Moncrief. He is responsible for endorsing and supporting strong neighborhood associations. He also has originated and supported the idea of the Fort Worth Way. Without putting words in his mouth, the Fort Worth Way is a process of moving the city forward through collaboration between citizens, city staff, and elected officials. There is nothing about this process that our city government can be proud of, much less call the Fort Worth Way. So what are we going to do? If you care about your home, I highly recommend that you invest the next 60 seconds of your life into defending your property. Below, I have listed the email addresses and phone numbers of your 2 elected representatives, Councilman Carter Burdett and Mayor Mike Moncrief. You need to contact them and you need to let them know how you feel. For your convenience, I've included a couple of example texts below. You can copy them into your email, you can use them for ideas, or you can just use your own words. Whatever you send, you need to send it now. If you can carbon copy me on your email, I will record it and use it for the upcoming meetings. We're in this together. This is Michael Dallas.